I feel like at this point in my career, I should have a little lab coat or something for these videos, my experiment videos that I do in The Sims 4. And this is actually a follow-up of a video that I created over a year ago now, and it was after the release of Lovestruck, because in the neighborhood stories, we actually got like 2 new options that helped with relationship changes outside of the household that you were actually playing as. And back when I did that video, it seemed to me that these really weren't working. They really weren't working the way that we were expecting, the way anybody anticipated. And so a year on from that, I wanted to go back and have a look at these and see if they were actually working the way I kind of expect them to as a player. And I've got to say, I don't know whether this is looking good or bad, because I don't have mods in my game right now. I also removed UI cheats, which I did have, but already the update had actually turned off my mods. And then I also repaired my game through the EA app. And just yesterday, we got an update. Now, my preferences here are working fine, like my likes and dislikes when it comes to preferences. But when we go to the ones that were actually introduced with Lovestruck, I feel bad that this is when I've waited to make this video. But as you can see, the little faces aren't popping up. I mean, it does still feel like they're adding it. Obviously, if I remove that, it says, you can't see it, but it says 16. If I add that back in, it says 17. So they are working, but the icon isn't there, which makes me think that there is something going on here. And I'm kind of scared, but we have Agnes Crumplebottom. Obviously, she is up in everybody's business when it comes to romantic relationships. If she sees you out flirting on the street, she's gonna fight you. You can be sure I am going to do that today. We are gonna see if these neighborhood stories change anything, but I'm gonna do it a little bit differently from how I did it last time. I truly want to give the game the benefit of the doubt, and some people in response to that last video said, hey, this kind of half works. We are gonna, of course, choose spring. I feel like that's the season of love, you know? It's the season of new beginnings. It's obviously got Valentine's Day. To be fair, Valentine's Day, is February still classed as winter? I don't see February as winter. I see that as spring. Some people were saying this kind of half works. So it actually works for a section of the neighborhood stories. So I actually want to test that theory out alongside just testing out whether or not these work the kind of way that I expect them to. But to do that, we need to move her in and then go back to manage worlds. This is actually what I was focused on last time. I was focusing on the other households. Obviously, you can configure neighborhood stories here for all households in other households. And these were the 2 that were added with Lovestruck. It was romance changes. Sims may start romance and either nurture or damage their relationship, and also friendship changes. Sims may make friends and either nurture or damage their friendship. Now, when I was actually playing Lovestruck in early access, this was working. Even for Sims who were in this other household section of the game, Mortimer, I'm fairly sure, became friends with Jeffrey. Obviously, I only had base game and Lovestruck installed, but I could see that those were actually working. So I'm gonna keep that for other households, but then I'm also going to move some of these into the other section, which is my household. So we are gonna take the Goths and the Landgrabs. If we got the Landgrabs in there, I feel like we should have Johnny Zest in there. I kind of don't want to move all the base game Sims over there because I want to also see if that affects some base game households that reside here. But we will move you into my household and you into my household. We'll move some of the werewolves. I kind of want to have a good chance of showing this off. So maybe we should move in some households that kind of have, well, I say that they have a pre-written script, but we all know that The Sims 4 sometimes doesn't even live up to its own lore, when it comes to what is written in the descriptions, which I'm fairly sure I'm gonna have a video up about over the weekend anyway, which is kind of why I wanted to do this video now, actually, because I wanted to see if we could actually start changing some of these relationships. You know who always, when I have MC Command Center, gets into a relationship? Judith Ward with either Marcus Flex, Christopher from Werewolves, or Don Lothario. So she's actually going to be moved into my households. I want to see if the same plays out. I kind of want some single Sims in that pool, so it kind of feels like they can like flirt with each other if they want to, because I don't know if they'll go like outside of their own relationships. So we still have plenty of people in other households. The only neighborhood stories we have enabled are the friendship changes and the romance changes. And then if we go to my households, here you can also sort this out. So I am gonna enable neighborhood stories, and again, we are just gonna have those two locked in. This is the element of the experiment that I didn't really play around with last time. I didn't really give my households a chance because, to be completely honest, I would just want this to work for other households, and I'm like 99% sure it was meant to work for other households. Now, we have only just moved in, so nothing of note has happened recently. Check back tomorrow. I can't remember off the top of my head what time this actually like refreshes. I think it might be 5 a.m, but I am obviously gonna speed through. I'm also gonna keep an eye out, you know, like out on the town. I want to see if maybe anyone's like chatting to each other, looking like they're befriending one another. Nancy Landgrab has come for a cheeky little jog, but nobody else is actually currently around. I kind of want to give an introduction to people though, just in case that also like kickstarts some of these changes potentially happening. No, stop, because I just went to see Wicked for Good, and I am not a Wicked person, okay? I've never watched a stage show. I've never listened to the soundtrack. The most I knew about Wicked was Defying Gravity, and that was mainly because of Glee. Which is so embarrassing to say out loud, actually, when I think about it. However, now I am a Gelfie shipper. I have been reading fanfic. I haven't even been reading fanfic. I have been devouring Gelfie fanfiction. So, you know, if you have any recs, leave them in the comments down below. I've been having the best time, and I'm actually kind of sad that I lived for 31 years on this godforsaken planet and actually didn't get into Wicked sooner. But you know what? I think you find Wicked when you need it most. Check those notifications. Rory and Jacob have a more distant friendship. Candy and Felix. The tough thing is like trying to figure out who they mean. Obviously, I know who Nyan is. So Nyan and Rodwan have a closer friendship. And then those were the three that happened on Monday morning. Who the heck is Felix? Is that Felix Sighted, the ghost from Discover University? That's the only Felix I can think of. I've kind of left it to 6 a.m. every morning because I didn't trust my 5 a.m. instinct. Oh, but no, we are not checking the action plans. Aziz and Eliza have a closer friendship. Ooh, Alice and Eric have a more distant friendship, which is interesting because they are in the same household. Ian and Rami have a closer friendship. Oleana and Layla have broken up. Why do I not believe you? And then I want to check that instantly. I know I said that we were going to check them all at the end of the week, but we are going to save and go to Manage Worlds because they are technically in a relationship. They live together and they also have a child that they look after, but they are actually part of other households. So this will kind of give us an idea. I will, once we have finished checking this out, put them back in to other households. I don't want to mess with the experiment halfway through, but I do want to see if they have actually broken up. I just feel like that is not the truth. If we go to their relationships, They both are sad. They both have the breakup blues. A relationship coming to an end is a sad event in any Sim's life. And yet, same again, their relationship doesn't actually, like, show that off. Although it does say that they are divorced. This marriage has ended in divorce. Apparently neutral and fine. It's just their actual, like, bars, like their relationship bars, don't suggest that this has ended. This seems to be working at least the tiniest bit better. I mean, if you can consider the relationship bars still being like bugged out and not really showing the relationship, which makes me think I kind of want to just hang around in their household just a little bit to see what they're both gonna do, because I want to see if they actually interact with each other in like a romantic way. Apparently they are both going to cry in the same bed, but she did actually leave the bed as her ex came to also cry in it, and it looks like they are about to chat to each other. Oh, you know when I complain about The Sims 4 having, like, no consequence, and you could literally implode your life and you could divorce your partner, and then the next second you're, like, hugging and making up and discussing fitness and just acting, like, really casual. When Chapel Roan wrote Casual, she wrote it about these two right here. These two Sulani lesbians. Although, we tried to talk about the warm weather, and Oleana was not about that. She's like, don't even try and make small talk with me about the weather right now. You just broke my heart. We don't technically know who did the dumping. It just says a relationship coming to an end is a sad event in any Sim's life. And they do have the divorced relationship, but unfortunately their relationship levels still kind of just show that like they still have a like relationship with each other. Although I will say they do seem to be quite tense. Like whenever they interact with each other, I kind of don't want you to go to work. I kind of want to flirt with her. I know this is me kind of sticking my oar in a little bit. Now obviously we are feeling really sad, so these are going to be like sad flirtations, and she did not approve of that flirtation. What about you flirting with her? This is also interesting because they actually aren't part of like my households, so this is now affecting Sims who are in the other households section of the neighborhood stories and like manage worlds, which I am very, very glad about. Unsatisfied and neutral, but they do still have the lovebirds connection. I think the game was just getting a little muddled up because that now has reappeared in the UI. Yeah, okay, it's an awkward encounter. Things don't seem to be going too well. I mean, off the bat, they did kind of, without me like getting them to flirt and then having those negative reactions to each other flirting, it definitely felt like their relationship could have just stayed the same and like eventually dissolved, but I would expect that to either be in the red after a divorce, or at least at the bare minimum to be just like sat at 0. But interesting to see that this is working slightly better than it was when I made the original video. Not gonna lie, I kind of wish that when you gossiped about neighbors or gossiped, it also came up with like some of the stuff that was happening through the neighborhood stories. Like, I wish that you could actually talk about that stuff. I've always said it, but I feel like The Sims 4 would do great with like a rumor system and actually learning about what was going on in your world through your Sims interacting rather than just like clicking on a mailbox to cause the drama. Let's check if my 5 a.m. was correct. I keep going on neighborhood action plans. Aurelio and Gunther have become good friends. What an unlikely pairing. Maybe they've been playing D&D together. Brent and Brent have a more distant friendship. Nothing of note. Okay, real quickly, let's go check out Brent and Brent. Annoyingly, you don't really know. I'm gonna assume that because they were kind of made before, it felt like the Sims team really like cared about how accurate the descriptions were and then showing that off in sentiments. I feel like even when they did start caring about that. The relationships were still kind of the same. Like, they were kind of just like the default friends. So I'm assuming that they are meant to be at like 50%. Like I said, I don't actually have UI cheats right now, so I can't check how accurate the friendship is between them. Just because I didn't want to have any mods, I didn't want anything whatsoever conflicting with the neighborhood stories. But real quickly, let's see if it looks like they are lower than kind of where I expect them to be. Yes, absolutely a lot lower than where I expect them to be. My babies! Oh no, what's happened? They are lovebirds and spouse, but they are unsatisfied right now. Oh no, they're also unattracted, but they have gone straight to flirting. You know what, boys? I wouldn't say that you two were toxic. When I think of a toxic couple in The Sims 4, it's definitely not you two, but this is starting to feel a wee little bit toxic. Especially considering you two are the only like Sims who know each other. Like, you don't know anyone outside of your relationship. That's weird. That's one thing I also want to look at as well. Like, even with the friendships, even though it isn't like as juicy as like the Sims who live together, not the car going down that dirt road and like, oh my god, look at the dust. Why have I never noticed that? God, everyone's exhaust needs sorting out. Everyone's exhaust look exhausted in Brindleton Bay. I think the friendship, like, outside of the same households and outside of, like, obviously, like, romantic relationships are also super interesting, because I do actually want to see if, like, people who definitely didn't know each other before from different worlds, from different packs, actually do befriend one another. But we're gonna check those ones out at the end. I just want to dive into the juicy stuff straight away. And I also don't want to leave the juicy stuff like too long so that it's not like slipping out of context and they're not like behind the scenes like befriending one another again. I want to see it physically in the moment to prove that it is actually happening. Let's see if this is the one time where I can win the lottery. Watch it be. I have 8 million in the bank. I'm playing with a household that I'm never ever gonna lock back into, and this will be the time that I win the lottery. Still something I've never ever done. Maybe I should just start a series where I attempt to win the lottery in The Sims 4. I don't even know how I make that happen, but I've had seasons for as long as it's been out, and it's one of the only things I've never managed to do in this game. God, you don't notice how many unnecessary notifications and like phone calls and texts your sim gets until you actually like 3-speed through the day, and they stop it every single time. Ooh, okay, so he's actually got in touch with me because he's my friend, saying Kayla Fleming has asked me out on a date. Now, obviously, this was pre-Lovestruck, so I kind of want to say you should think about it for yourself, but I'm gonna say I don't think it's a good idea, because I don't want to like have that lead in to the stuff that we are actually testing today. What's going on today? Dylan and Angelo have become friends. Brent and Jess have become friends. Brent knows someone outside of Brent and Brent. Oh my goodness. That's interesting with Brent and Brent. Is he out of a toxic relationship? Well, no, because they're still together. They haven't broken up, which I'm glad. You cannot divorce the gays. Not on my watch. Another day and more drama. Lana and Nancy. That's interesting because one of those Sims is in my household. Penny and Kayla have become friends. Titania and Oberon have a closer friendship. Okay, nice that at least one couple are having good relations with each other. Skip and Jane are closer. Brittany and Oliana. Brittany Cho sliding on in to Oliana's DMs. The drama. Oh my god, we haven't fought anyone this entire video, but now we are absolutely going to fight Robin Banks. Get out of here, Robin. And you know that Agnes is gonna win this. If she doesn't... Oh my god, she actually got dazed, but we now hate Robin, and she is still leaving. Goodbye. Goodbye. I can't believe that we lost. You literally fight every day. How are you gonna lose? That's so embarrassing. Come check out Thrifty? No, thank you. I would rather check out the tea of my neighborhood stories. Mark and Alice have a closer friendship. Iris and Nadia have a closer friendship. Well, I bet they do. Elon and Choro have a more distant friendship, and nothing has happened of late recently. Right. That has been almost a full week. We played from Sunday through to Saturday, so let's save and go to Manage Worlds and actually check out some of these friendships that have so-called started or become a little bit more strained. The first one I want to check out is Nancy Landgrab, and then also Brent and Brant, and also Aurelio, because I'm fairly sure all of those were with people who are actually outside of the world that they actually live in, and even like outside of the household. Now they are actually in like my played households. I haven't actually played them, but they were in those settings within my managed worlds. However, this also affected people apparently in other households. So it seems to be that both of them are working, but this will kind of show us if they are actually working. So Nancy Landgrab relationships. Lana is in fact there. Lana was a Discover University sim. She, I'm fairly sure, is one of the teachers within Discover University. We opened that profile. They are just acquaintances. Lana and Nancy have become friends, which definitely isn't the case. The game is still calling them acquaintances, but they do know each other, so you know, that is something. Nothing else has happened with like Malcolm or Jeffrey, so they still just know everyone within their household, but Nancy has got to know somebody else. Let's of course go back to Brindleton Bay. Oh, they actually are still in my households, and the change actually happened friendship-wise between those two when they were in my other household section, and then I actually forgot to remove them from my played household section once I actually had hopped in to check the change. And that's when the friendship between Brent and somebody else happened, which I guess kind of shows that this is affecting both the other household section and my household section. So kind of working the way I anticipated there more than it did originally. Jess and Brent, sorry, not Brent, are actually pretty good friends now. They are, in fact, friends. They don't just, like, know each other. They're not just acquaintances. But their romantic relationship has actually gone up more, I feel, since we last popped in, whereas their friendship has, like, stayed the same since we got that notification. And just before we wrap up, let's also check out Aurelio, because that's going to be someone who definitely wasn't in my household section at any point during any of this. And Aurelio lives in San Sequoia. This is little Aurelio here, and we should spot Gunther. I'm fairly sure you are the only Aurelio that we have within the game. So that is definitely interesting, because keep in mind, technically, friendship-wise, Jess actually wasn't in our played households, but Brant was friendship-wise, so I wonder if it's still working that the people outside of your played household, when it comes to the friendship, it doesn't actually change. Aurelio and Gunther have become friends. Now, quite clearly, there is no Gunther in Aurelio's friendship, and I'm like 99% sure this is the only Aurelio that we have in the game. That's probably going to be Mark and Alice from Strangeville rather than Alice Spencer Kim. This is where this actually gets tough. Like, I kind of wish it full named people so you could actually tell who they were. Skip and Jane are in the same household. Titania and Oberon are in the same household. Penny and Kayla. That makes me think Penny Pizzazz and Kayla Fleming. Not me losing brain cells over this. I'm just confused as to why the Aurelio and Gunther one didn't work. Maybe it's because Gunther is like a young adult and Aurelio is a teen, but I can't really see that like being an interference. Is Penny Pizzazz in here? Penny is in here. I need a friendship that weren't in there. I fear the friendship changes are only working if they're in my households. Candy and Felix. Okay, I'm fairly sure Candy Bear is not in here, and I definitely wouldn't have put Felix the ghost in here. This might be our one. This might be the one that I might be able to check. Let's go into Windenburg. Let's hop in to the Bear household. You can also tell they're not in my households because the plumb bob above their family isn't green. That's when they're like unplayed, but they're still in like your household section. So if this friendship hasn't changed, that means that the friendship changes aren't currently working for people outside of the my household section. However, the romantic changes for at least the Sims who are in relationships already are working. Although I don't think anything romantic has started between two Sims who like didn't know each other. Oop, that is your sisters if we go on Candy. So it's still kind of working in the way that it was when I made that video a year ago. She absolutely is not friends with Felix. So that kind of means you need to have like households in my household rather than other households. And then you also need to turn on neighborhood stories, which I guess like isn't the end of the world. Like even if you're not playing these Sims, just having them in here really isn't much different from then having them in other households. And if you want to see the changes, I would say this is definitely your best bet, but just make sure that you're like configuring the neighborhood stories, you're enabling them for my households because I'm fairly sure they're disabled by default, and then make sure that you're choosing the ones that you want. Unfortunate that it's still not really affecting other households. I don't know why that is. I don't know why the game feels like it should be doing it, especially with like the notifications, but then there's nothing to back it up. And I would also like to see romantic relationship changes, especially like Sims getting together romantically, even if they're not like both single, potential cheating on the cards. But it seems that any romantic relationships changes that we had actually happened between Sims who were already in romantic relationships. Like Oleana actually broke up, and nice to see that they were actually broken up, but their relationship bar didn't really change. However, Brent and Brent's friendship bar did actually change, and I have no idea what causes that. It still doesn't feel like this is working the way that it was made to work. It doesn't feel like it's super intentional by the game. It still feels like it's running into issues where it probably shouldn't run into issues. But I hope this was helpful. I kind of just wanted to come back into this with like a fresh mind and also give it a second chance, especially after seeing comments of like, this has been fixed. And I guess it's kind of been fixed, but it's definitely not working in the way that I think it was designed to work, which in my opinion, I don't think this is working. I don't think this is fixed. I think there's definitely some things that work better than others, but I still don't feel like it's working how it should be working, or really how I expect it to work. Maybe one day we'll get there. So I would love to see a fix for this one day. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope this video was enjoyable for you all, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Let me know if there's any more like experimental like testing videos that you'd like me to do, because I really like this type of content. I like doing the investigative journalism that The Sims 4 needs.